Go.
Yay! Praise the Lord. Welcome to Godzilla 7 End Time Prophecy channel. I'm Sister Barbara. You probably know me now for saying 4 years. Right, Brother Dan? About 4 years we're on here, right? Or longer?
More closer to 5 or 6.
This is not a prophecy message. I started taking notes about this message when I was in a skilled nursing home in Pennsylvania, probably one of the top 1 or 2, right, Brother Dan?
5-star.
5-star, okay.
And you use the word skilled loosely.
Yes, I called it unskilled nursing. But I'm not saying the name of where I was, but I started taking notes at the time. I kind of knew what was going on. This might have to be a 2-parter. I kept my notebook and I took notes because what I was observing while I was there was so shocking to me I couldn't even believe it. So what I'm going to start with, I was in the nursing home for how many months?
November, December, 5 months.
Okay, so I took notes of what was going on. So when I started to figure out what was going on, I remember requesting a copy of all the medications I was on because I was on about 30 different medications a day, right?
Not that many, but you were on quite a few.
20 to 30 every couple hours. They'd come in and give me a cup of pills.
Well, some was the same medication, just different dosages. Okay. You get multiple
but
dosages.
They wouldn't tell me. The problem was they wouldn't tell me what the medications were. So I was starting to have a problem. I kept on saying, leave a note for the doctor. I want to talk to the doctor. I want to know what all these medications I'm on and what they're for. Because I wasn't on really any medications when I was home. I didn't take really anything. Now I know I had brain surgery and a stroke, so I knew I was going to have to be on some medications. But I was, like I said, I was starting to realize that something bad was going on at the nursing home. And I just want to put this disclaimer up. I'm still friends with some of the nurses there, and they're lovely people, and you always have the handful of bad people that just, I say, ruin it on everybody else. So let's talk about the bath, getting a bath. So I have to put this message up because I'm in the nursing home nightmare right now, and I can't get past it until I speak it. So the bath, the first time I remember getting a bath, and Brother Dan remembers this, I was transferred from one really bad nursing home in and out of the hospital one time, five times, I think Brother Dan said.
4 times.
And it would have raging fever. No one knew what it was from.
Blood pressure, numerous other things.
Yes, and they keep on sending me back to the nursing home. So the bath. Now these are some of the things that cause me to stay up at night and I can't sleep. That's why I call it my testimony of a nursing home nightmare. They put me in a what they call a shower chair.
Yep. And
there were other people in the shower room. This is what I remember the first time. I remember them driving me around the shower room, and if you need tissues, you better get them. They drove me around the shower room, and then they got what I considered a hose,
like
which
a fire
was probably
hose.
a shower nozzle. And they were hosing all of the women down with the hose. I was like in shock and I was starting to cry. I couldn't believe it. I was being hosed down. I felt like cattle.
Yep.
So then from there, they stood me up in front of a mirror, and I didn't know my hair was all cut off. So of course I have no clothes on. I'm standing there. I didn't know what was going on, where I was, and why was I in this horrible place. So that was bath time. And I couldn't even get a washcloth in the morning to get washed up from anyone.
I want to add, on the wall in the shower, I saw a centipede this big crawling up the wall.
How big, Brother Dan? 4 inches? That's
about 3.
That's why I was crying and yelling?
I didn't even tell you until right now.
Yes, Brother Dan said, I kept on asking him questions. He said, if you don't remember it, I don't think it's a good thing I talk about it right now. So as I remember things, I asked him. So the shower was pretty much the worst thing. And then there was never anybody to help me get a shower. I think I went, 1 week, I went 5 days with no shower. I kept on begging every day for someone to help me get a bath because of course I was paralyzed on the left side of my foot and I was blind on the left eye. There was no one to help me get a bath. This is horrible. This makes me cry even now. So what I did was, my family brought me this big stack, it was probably 6 inches thick, of baby wipes. I had them close the curtain. I ended up getting a bath with baby wipes, so I couldn't get a bath there. It was horrible. It was just the worst thing you could ever imagine. And then it's getting better. So by now I'm realizing I have a catheter in, and I'm feeling the urge that I have to urinate. one of the really nice aides said to me, well, if you're getting the urge that you have to urinate, it's time for the catheter to come out. Now, the whole time I'm there, I don't ever remember seeing a doctor, but we did get bills from him, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and he did prescribe me all this medication. I don't ever remember seeing a doctor at least 5 months, so I kept on putting a note out there with the nurse's station. Please, I want to see the doctor. I want to get this catheter out. That actually caused an infection at one point, didn't it?
Yes, the first time it went there.
Is that when my kidneys were starting to get
No, that's a different story.
Oh, gee, that's a different story. Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about the catheter. So the catheter, this is, again, one of my nightmares that I keep on getting over and over. The catheter, so I kept on leaving a note. So I guess I was being a pain in somebody's butt at this point. I kept on leaving a note that I want to get the catheter out and I want to see a doctor. So the charge nurse comes in about midnight. So she's probably getting done with her shift, just about. She goes, oh, so you want your catheter out? I'm like, yes. They said that once you feel like you need to urinate, it should come out. And I said to her, she goes, well, I'll take it out. I'll be back in a couple minutes. I'll take it out. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm like, so I'm laying there. She comes in, and so I'm like, now you've done this before, right? Oh, yeah. I've done it many times. Okay. I'm like, all right, okay. So now I'm thinking they're going to maybe use some sort of anesthesia or give me some sort of medication or something. And okay, this is the nightmare. They didn't give me anything. Now I know there was balloons holding it in. And she took the catheter cord and she just yanked it right out. And I was like, I was in shock. I couldn't believe she just did that. So that's part of my nightmare. So then I would wake up in the morning on Saturday and Sunday, and I'd have a little pager that I would page the nurse to help me get in the bathroom. Now I don't have a catheter anymore, so I need to go in the restroom. Brother Dan, what was the usual time frame to get in the bathroom on a Saturday?
45 minutes, an hour, hour and
45
50
minutes to an hour. I would be paging an aide to come, and no one would come. I would be there crying. I knew I was going to either pee the bed or pee my pants.
And they wanted you to do that, and they didn't care.
They didn't care. They didn't care. So what I decided what I was going to do, I figured that if I don't get out of here and learn how to do this stuff myself, they're going to kill me here. I'm going to die here. So what I did was, when I went to my therapy lady, I said, you need to teach me how to get out of the bed and into the wheelchair so I could get myself into the bathroom and onto the toilet, because they're not coming. An hour and a half the one morning I waited for somebody to help me just to drive me 3 feet away into the restroom. So I'm like, I'm going to die here if I don't know how to do this. So what I started to do was, as soon as my aide would leave the room, I'd get out of the bed by myself, I'd get in the wheelchair, and I'd practice driving around the room and into the bathroom and getting on and off the toilet by myself. So that's what I was doing. I knew if I didn't do that, I was going to die, and I was never going to get out of the nursing home. I was never going to get out of there. So this is shocking. This will make your hair stand up. So this was right before I was going home. And then I'll back up into the story about my roommates. So, right before I'm going home, I'm like, I can't believe this is happening. This is the most horrible thing in my entire life. So the nurse leaves, the aide leaves the room, and I get in the wheelchair, and I drive into the bathroom. Now my foot is still paralyzed on the left side, and not realizing the floor was flooded in the bathroom. So I went in there. I got back in the wheelchair, I came back out to my bed, and I stood at the bed bar to get into the bed. My brother Dan knows this story. And I was sliding my foot up and down, and I'm like, something's not right, but I couldn't feel anything, so I didn't know my socks were wet. So I'm like, if I try to get in the bed, I'm going to fall. I'll never get out of here. I'm going to fall on the floor. So I'm out of the wheelchair, and I'm like, now what am I going to do? I sit on the floor. Now this is shocking coming up here. I sit on the floor, so I'm sitting on the floor. And the nurse comes in, and she starts mocking me. She starts going, Barbara, what are you doing down there? I thought you could walk. Stand up and walk for us. I'm like, I'm afraid I'm going to fall. I said, this floor doesn't feel right. And she comes over to me. She looks at me. I said, well, aren't you going to help me to get up? No, she said, get up yourself. And she grabs me by the arm, and she twirls me around in a circle. No, she said, you know how to walk. You get in yourself. I'm like, oh, God. Then she grabs my wheelchair, and I'm like, I'm going to die here. She takes my wheelchair out of the little cubicle, and she throws it up against the wall and rips the arm right out of it. So I'm like, that could have been my arm ripped off. So I'm there on the floor still sitting, and she comes and she drags me on the floor, and she stands me up onto the bar. And I stand up and there's still something not right, and I get in the bed, and I'm just glad I'm alive at this point. But I remembered what her name was, and I asked about her later on down the road. So that was 2 nightmares I can't get rid of. So apparently she was a supervisor, and I had her name. So the next 2 parts of the story were the roommates. I had to leave my room and change floors because the first roommate all night would cry because she couldn't breathe, and the aides wouldn't come and help her, and the aides would come in and start screaming at her at midnight and say, "We're not going to do anything for you, stop calling us." And then she would cry and she would beg me all night to call for somebody to help her. Then every night at 7 o'clock I could hear everybody crying in the hall, up and down, help me, Brother Dan, you heard it right?
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible, help me, and I'm in the hospital, I'm in the bed, I'm blind, and I'm paralyzed on one side with the wheelchair, and they're crying, going up and down the hall for somebody to help me. Nobody would help them, they wouldn't even come, nobody would even come down the hallway, they wouldn't come even if I rang the bell. Then the next disturbing thing was I moved out of that room because she was keeping me up all night crying, help me. I moved to the next floor, and then what I see is this. I hear my curtain, there's only curtains, I wasn't in a single room. I hear the curtain open, and I hear the nurse go to the lady next door to me. And in the meantime, I could hear somebody behind my TV. I'm like, what's going on? I could hear the curtain, and I couldn't really see. I'm like, what are they doing? So they go to the lady, and they scream at her, take your pills! What's the matter with you? Take your pills! Now this lady wasn't out of it. She kind of knew what was going on, which was the bad part. She goes, I would take my pills, but half of them are missing. So what I suspected, and I asked Brother Dan the next morning, remember, were there pill cups behind my TV? They came in my room behind the garbage can. I suspected they stole her medication, they put them back there, and then a little while later somebody went behind the curtain and opened the curtain and got whatever was back there. They stole their medication. So that was the 2 horrible things. So let's see, did I miss anything? Can you think of anything?
Well, maybe we'll put up, there was something sticking out because we had to sign off your wheelchair, and you were all black and blue on your legs, and I took pictures of it.
Yes.
And we asked them for weeks to fix the wheelchair, and they wouldn't do it. So the next day they were having a celebration. The public was invited to celebrate their 5-star rating. So I went to the desk and said, I'm going to come to your celebration with my pictures of my wife with the black and blue marks, and we can celebrate that.
Yes, there was big sharp things.
So within 5 minutes, somebody came over and fixed the wheelchair. And I don't know how we could do it, but I saved the pictures from the wheelchair.
Yes, I saw
with you with black and blue marks.
Well, maybe you could forward them to me.
The only thing I want to add is I never got a chance to read the scripture that you wanted me to read at the beginning. So then we're going to sign off. And if you need to do a part 2, you can, but it's in Matthew chapter 25, verse 40, and the King James Version. And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it to me. You want to add anything else before I sign off?
Yes, just 2 things. As I was begging for a bath, I had a male nurse come in and say, I'll give you a bath today on Friday, otherwise you have to get a bath on Tuesday. I'd have to wait more days. So I just bit the bullet and got a bath with some guy I didn't know. And then the final straw was the woman that drugged me around on the floor and laughed and mocked at me. She came back when I was leaving. I thought she was going to kill me, I really did. She goes, Barbara, I heard there was a complaint about me. She said, you know I'd never hurt you or ever do anything, right? We have an understanding, right? You understand that? I'm like, sure. Okay, please leave. Yes, she came back to make sure because I knew her name and I complained about it, and so she had to make sure she wasn't going to get in any trouble.
And if you file any complaint, they retaliate against you.
Yes.
That's the ways in northeastern Pennsylvania. Yes, so let's sign off, Carol.
Yes, we're signing off with the aide that was smoking crack on her break. Came in and left her stuff on my bed, and I'm like, I gotta get out of here, I'm gonna follow her, they're gonna kill me. So that was the end of my nursing home nightmare. I hope it is now that I spoke it. God bless you all. Remember to like us on God's Healer 7 Facebook channel, and if I can, I will put up those pictures, Brother Dan, of you that you took of me covered with black and blue marks, and that made them actually do something. So God bless you all, be safe, and remember, have a plan, an emergency plan if something happens. Thank God I had Brother Dan. He's my emergency plan.
Shalom.
Shalom. Amen.